Jake Morrison wiped the grease from his hands and looked at the broken air filter. Another day, another broken machine. He lived on level 47 of the Neo-Detroit housing complex. His small apartment had one room, one bed, and one window that showed nothing but gray concrete walls. He was 28 years old and worked as a maintenance man. Every day he fixed things that other people broke: air filters, water pumps, heating units. The work was simple but lonely. Jake talked to machines more than he talked to people. His last girlfriend was Lisa Carter. She left him 3 years ago for a man who worked in the upper levels, the rich levels. Jake never blamed her. Who would want to stay with a maintenance worker when they could have an executive? Jake finished his work and walked back to his apartment. The hallways were empty. Most people were already home, eating dinner with their families. Jake had no family. His parents died in an accident when he was 20. He had no brothers or sisters. He opened his apartment door and turned on the lights. The same small space greeted him: a bed, a table, a chair, and a wall screen. Jake heated up a synthetic meal and sat down to eat. The food tasted like plastic, but it was cheap. After dinner, Jake turned on the wall screen. He liked to watch old documentaries about Earth before the cities got so crowded. He watched videos of forests and oceans, places where people could walk for miles without seeing buildings. Jake fell asleep watching a video about whales. He dreamed of swimming in blue water under bright sunshine. But his dreams changed. The blue water turned purple. Strange music played in his head. Beautiful voices sang words he could not understand. In his dream, lights danced around him, purple and silver lights that moved like living things. The voices got louder. They were calling to him. Jake tried to answer, but he could not speak. He felt like he was floating. Jake woke up, but he was not in his bed. He was lying on something smooth and warm. The room around him was not his apartment. The walls were made of crystal that glowed with soft light. The ceiling was high and curved like the inside of a shell. Jake sat up quickly. His heart was beating fast. This was not his room. This was not his building. This was not anywhere on Earth that he knew. A door opened in the crystal wall. Jake had not seen the door before. It appeared like magic. A woman walked in, but she was not human. She was tall and graceful. Her skin was pale blue and seemed to glow from inside. Her hair was long and silver, and it moved like it was underwater. Her eyes were large and purple. She wore a dress that looked like it was made of starlight. The woman smiled at Jake. When she spoke, her voice was the same beautiful voice from his dreams. "Hello, Jake Morrison," she said. "Do not be afraid, you are safe." Jake tried to speak, but his mouth was dry. "Where am I?" he finally asked. "You are on my ship," the woman said. "I am Empress Velana of the Zephyrian Empire. You have been chosen for a great honor." Jake looked around the crystal room. "Chosen for what?" "To be my mate," Velana said simply. "To help create a new future for both our peoples." Jake felt dizzy. This had to be a dream. But the crystal floor felt real under his hands. The glowing walls looked real. The alien woman standing in front of him looked very real. "This is impossible," Jake said. "I was in my apartment. I was sleeping." "We brought you here while you slept," Velana explained. "Our ships can move between worlds without being seen. We have been watching humans for many years. We chose you because you are special." "Special?" Jake almost laughed. "I fix air filters. I live alone. Nobody thinks I'm special." Velana moved closer. Her purple eyes studied Jake's face. "You are more than you know, Jake Morrison. You will understand in time." The door opened again. Another human walked in. It was a woman with short brown hair and tired eyes. She wore simple clothes like Jake. "Hello, Jake," the woman said. "My name is Kira Stone. I know this is confusing. I was like you once." "You're human?" Jake said. "Yes. I've been here for 2 years. I'm going to help you understand what's happening." Jake stood up. His legs felt weak. "I want to go home." Kira's face was sad. I'm sorry, Jake. That's not possible anymore. But it's not as bad as you think. They treat us well here. Velana spoke again. Jake Morrison, you have been chosen to join the renewal protocol. Your people have something we need. In return, we offer you wonders beyond your imagination. What do you need? Jake asked. Your humanity, Velana said. Your unpredictable nature. Your ability to think in ways we cannot. For too long, my people have followed the same patterns. We need change, or we will fade away. Jake looked at Kira. Is she telling the truth? Kira nodded. The Zephyrians are very advanced, but they've become too predictable. They all think the same way. They need human creativity to survive. And if I say no? Velana and Kira exchanged looks. There is no saying no, Kira said quietly. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. He had been alone for so long, but at least he had been free. Now he was a prisoner, even if the prison was beautiful. How many humans are here? Jake asked. On this ship, 6 including you, Kira said. Across the fleet, maybe 50. Fleet? The Zephyrian Empire controls hundreds of worlds, Velana explained. We are traveling to our home system now. There, you will see the full glory of our civilization. Jake walked to what looked like a window. Outside, he saw stars moving past in strange patterns. They were definitely not on Earth anymore. This is real, he whispered. Very real, Velana said. She came to stand beside him. But not terrible. You will have everything you need here. Comfort, purpose, companions. Jake thought about his empty apartment. His job fixing broken machines. His nights alone watching old videos. Maybe this was not the worst thing that could happen to him. But something in Kira's eyes told him there was more to this story. Something the alien Empress was not telling him. What happened to the other humans who came before me? Jake asked. Velana was quiet for a moment. Some adapted well, others did not. What does that mean? Some went crazy, Kira said bluntly. The isolation, the pressure, being so far from home, it broke them. Jake felt cold. And the ones who adapted? They found their place in our world, Velana said. They became valuable members of our society. Jake looked out at the moving stars again. Somewhere out there was Earth, his small, lonely apartment, his job fixing broken things. It had not been much of a life, but it had been his life. Now he was here, in a crystal room on an alien ship, being told he would help create a new future. Jake Morrison, who had never created anything more important than a repair schedule. But as he looked at his reflection in the crystal window, Jake saw something in his own eyes that surprised him. Not just fear or confusion, interest. For the first time in years, something unexpected had happened to him. Maybe, just maybe, that was not entirely a bad thing. Even if it might kill him. Jake woke up in the softest bed he had ever felt. The crystal room had changed while he slept. Now it looked more like a luxury hotel room. There was a bathroom with a shower that felt like warm rain. Clean clothes waited for him on a chair. The clothes fit perfectly. Jake wondered how the aliens knew his size. Then he remembered they had been watching humans for years. They probably knew everything about him. When Jake opened what he thought was a wall, it became a door. Outside was a hallway that curved gently to the left and right. The walls glowed with the same soft light as his room. Other doors lined the hallway, but Jake could not tell which ones might open. Good morning, Jake. Jake turned around. Kira, Stone, stood behind him. She looked better than yesterday. Her clothes were clean and her hair was brushed. How long was I asleep? Jake asked. About 10 hours. That's normal. The first few days are hard on human bodies. The ship's environment is a little different from Earth. Jake followed Kira down the hallway. Where are we going? To meet the others, and to get some food. You must be hungry. Jake realized he was very hungry. The synthetic meal from his apartment felt like it happened days ago. They walked through several corridors. Jake tried to remember the way, but all The hallways looked the same. The crystal walls made it hard to judge distance. Everything seemed to glow and shift slightly. "How big is this ship?" Jake asked. "Huge. I've been here 2 years and I still haven't seen all of it." The Zephyrians love big things, big ships, big rooms, big ceremonies. They entered a large room with tables and chairs. 3 other humans sat at one table. They looked up when Jake and Kira walked in. "Everyone, this is Jake Morrison," Kira said. "Jake, meet Carlos Rivera, Nina Walsh, and Alex Turner." Carlos was a big man with dark hair and serious eyes. He looked like a soldier. Nina was older, maybe 40, with gray hair and kind eyes. Alex was young, probably in his early 20s, with nervous energy. "Welcome to the Golden Cage," Carlos said. His voice was rough. "Don't scare him," Nina said to Carlos. She smiled at Jake. "It's not that bad, really. How long have you all been here?" Jake asked as he sat down. "I'm the newest before you," Alex said. 6 months. Carlos has been here 18 months. Nina's been here longest, almost 3 years. 3 years? Jake could not imagine being away from Earth for 3 years. "You get used to it," Nina said. "The Zephyrians take good care of us. We have everything we need." A section of the wall opened. Jake had not seen any door or button. A Zephyrian walked in carrying a tray of food. This one was male, Jake thought. Shorter than Empress Velana, with blue-green skin instead of pale blue. The alien set down the tray and left without speaking. The food looked strange, but smelled good. Jake tried a piece of something that looked like fruit. It tasted sweet and made his mouth tingle. "The food's actually pretty good," Alex said. "Better than what I ate on Earth." "What did you do on Earth?" Jake asked. "Engineering student," Alex said. "I was working on my degree when they took me." "I was a Marine," Carlos said. "Just finished a tour in the Saturn colonies." "Xenobiology." "Researcher," Nina added. "I was actually studying reports of alien contact when they contacted me." Jake felt out of place. These people had important jobs, education, skills. "I just fixed air filters." "Don't sell yourself short," Nina said. "They chose you for a reason. The Zephyrians don't pick randomly." "What reason?" "We don't know yet," Carlos said. "They tell us we're special, but they won't say why. Not completely." After breakfast, Kira showed Jake around the ship. They visited a library full of strange books that showed moving pictures when opened. They saw a garden where alien plants grew in impossible colors. They walked through rooms that changed their shape based on who entered them. "It's like magic," Jake said. "It's biotechnology," Kira explained. "Everything on this ship is alive, in some way. The walls, the doors, even the lights, it all responds to thoughts and emotions." Jake stopped walking. "It responds to thoughts?" "That's how the Zephyrians control everything. They think at it and it obeys. But it doesn't work as, well, for humans. Our thoughts are too chaotic. Is that good or bad?" Kira smiled. "I think it might be good." The Zephyrians seem frustrated that they can't predict what we'll do next. They visited more rooms. Jake saw a workshop where Alex was building something with strange tools. He saw a gym where Carlos was exercising with equipment that adjusted itself to his movements. He saw a lab where Nina was studying samples of alien plants. "Everyone has something to do," Jake observed. "The Zephyrians like us to stay busy. They say idle humans cause problems." In the afternoon, Empress Velana came to see Jake. She brought him to a room with comfortable chairs and a window that showed the stars. "How are you adjusting, Jake Morrison?" she asked. "It's a lot to take in," Jake said honestly. "Yes, I imagine it is. Your people are not used to such rapid changes." Velana sat across from Jake. Up close, her skin really did glow. Her purple eyes seemed to look right into his thoughts. "Tell me about your life on Earth," she said. Jake was surprised. "Why do you want to know?" "I am curious about human nature. Each of you is so different. Carlos thinks like a warrior. Nina thinks like a scientist. Alex thinks like a builder. But you, I cannot read your thoughts as easily." "Maybe there's not much to read," Jake said. "I do not think that is true." Jake told her about his job, his apartment, his lonely life. Velana listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. You lived alone, she said finally. Yes. But you were not bitter about it. Jake thought about that. No, I guess not. I was sad sometimes, but not angry. Interesting. Most humans become angry when they are isolated for too long. But you adapted. I had to. There was no one else to fix things if I didn't. Valana's eyes brightened. You see problems as things to be solved, not things to be angry about. I suppose so. That is very rare, Jake Morrison, even among my people. After Valana left, Jake spent the evening with the other humans. They played cards, with a deck that Nina had made from ship materials. The cards changed colors as they played, responding to their emotions. The ship knows when we're bluffing, Alex complained as his cards turned bright red. That's why Carlos always wins, Nina laughed. He's too stubborn to feel nervous. Carlos grinned. Military training. Jake enjoyed the company. It had been years since he had friends to talk with, but he also paid attention to things the others might miss. He noticed that the room's temperature changed when they got excited. He saw that the lights dimmed when they were sad. Everything on the ship was connected. Everything responded to their emotions and thoughts. Jake wondered what would happen if someone really understood how it all worked. That night, as Jake lay in his soft bed, he thought about Empress Valana's words. She said he was rare because he solved problems instead of getting angry about them. Jake had spent years fixing broken machines that other people had given up on. He knew that most problems had solutions if you looked at them the right way. Maybe being kidnapped by aliens was just another broken machine that needed fixing. Jake fell asleep thinking about biotechnology that responded to emotions, about aliens who could predict everything except humans, about a ship full of living walls and thinking lights, and about how a maintenance worker might be exactly the wrong person to put in a place where everything was connected to everything else. The Zephyrians might have made a mistake. They wanted human unpredictability, but they might have gotten more than they bargained for. Jake Morrison had never had the chance to break something important before. Now he was surrounded by the most important technology in the galaxy, and it was all waiting for him to figure out how it worked. Jake had been on the ship for 2 weeks when Empress Valana invited him to dinner. Not with the other humans, but alone with her in her private rooms. The Empress's quarters were bigger than Jake's entire apartment back on Earth. Crystal walls showed views of space that changed like living paintings. Furniture grew from the floor when needed and melted back when not in use. You seem different from the others, Valana said as they ate. The food appeared on plates that formed themselves from the table. Different how? Jake asked. Calmer. Most humans fight against their situation or fall into despair, you observe. Jake chewed slowly. The alien food was getting easier to eat. I've always been a watcher. In my job, you have to understand how something works before you can fix it. And what do you think of what you have observed here? Jake set down his fork. For 2 weeks, he had been quiet and polite. But tonight felt different. Maybe it was. Time to stop pretending to be just a simple maintenance worker. I think your people have a problem, Jake said. Valana's purple eyes widened slightly. What kind of problem? You're too predictable. Everything you do follows patterns. Your ship, your technology, even how you talk to us humans. It's all very organized and logical. That is how civilized beings should behave. Maybe. But it also makes you weak. The room went very quiet. Jake could hear the soft hum of the ship's systems. Valana stared at him for a long moment. Explain, she said. Your biotechnology responds to thoughts and emotions, right? But your people all think the same way. You can't surprise your own machines. That means anyone who thinks differently than you can potentially control them. That is why we need human genetics, to add unpredictability to our children. No, Jake said, that's what you tell yourselves, but it's not the real reason. Then what is the real reason? Jake leaned forward. You're afraid. Your empire is built on being smarter and more advanced than everyone else. But what happens when you meet something you can't predict? Something that doesn't follow your patterns? Valana's skin flickered between blue and pale silver. Jake had never seen that before. You think you understand us after 2 weeks? She asked. I think I understand machines. And your whole civilization is basically one big machine. A very beautiful, very complex machine. But still a machine. And what do you know about machines, Jake Morrison? Jake smiled. I know how to break them. As he said those words, Jake concentrated on feeling angry. Really angry. About being kidnapped. About being called a breeding specimen. About his lonely life on Earth that led to him being here. The lights in the room flickered. The walls shifted color. Velana's chair adjusted its shape suddenly, making her sit up straighter. How did you do that? She asked. Your technology reads emotions, but you've never had anyone who could control their emotions on purpose. Someone who could feel angry at exactly the right moment. Jake stood up and walked to the wall. He pressed his hand against it and thought about the happiest moment of his life. When he was 7 years old, playing in the park with his parents before they died. The wall under his hand turned warm gold. The color spread outward like ripples in water. Impossible, Velana whispered. Not impossible, just unpredictable. Jake had been planning this moment for days. He had tested his theory in small ways, making the lights in his room brighter by thinking happy thoughts, making the water in his shower warmer by concentrating on feeling hot. The biotechnology didn't just respond to emotions. It could be controlled by them if you knew how. You lied to me, Velana said. You are not a simple maintenance worker. I never lied. I do fix air filters, but I also have a degree in systems analysis. I worked for Peterson Corporation for 5 years before I burned out and took an easier job. Why did you not tell me this? Because you never asked. You looked at my apartment and my job and decided I was simple. That was your first mistake. Jake walked back to the table. The room's systems were still reacting to his emotions, colors shifting across the walls like northern lights. What is our second mistake? Velana asked. You brought 4 other humans onto this ship. Carlos knows how to fight. Nina knows how to analyze biological systems. Alex knows how to build things. And me? I know how to understand complex systems and find their weaknesses. You plan to escape. No, escape is impossible. You told me that yourself. But control? Control might be possible. Velana stood up quickly. Her skin was now flickering between several colors. Guards, she called. Nothing happened. Jake smiled. I've been making friends with your ship's systems for 2 weeks. Right now they're a little confused about who they should obey. This was not entirely true. Jake could only affect small systems for short periods, but Velana didn't know that. What do you want? She asked. I want to talk to the other humans. All of them. I want to know the real story about this breeding program. And I want to understand what happened to the humans who came before us. And if I refuse? Jake concentrated on feeling frustrated. Every light in the room dimmed. The furniture shifted and creaked. Your ship is alive, Velana. And right now it's feeling what I'm feeling. How long do you think it can handle human emotions before something important breaks? 20 minutes. Later, Jake sat with Carlos, Nina, Alex, and Kira in a meeting room. Velana stood at one end of the table, her skin still shifting colors. Tell them, Jake said to the Empress. Velana was quiet for a moment. Then she began to speak. The Zephyrian Empire has conquered 47 worlds. We have done this by understanding the patterns of other species and using those patterns against them. But there is a problem. What problem? Carlos asked. We have become too successful. Every species we encounter now follows patterns we have seen before. Our empire has stopped growing because we cannot be surprised anymore. So you need humans, Nina said slowly. We need chaos, Velana corrected. Humans are the most unpredictable species we have ever encountered. Your thoughts are random. Your emotions change constantly. Your decisions often make no logical sense. Thanks, Alex said dryly. It is not an insult. It is your greatest strength. We thought we could breed that chaos into our children, create a new generation of Zephyrians who could think like humans. But it's not working, Jake said. No. The children are too predictable. They have human genetics but Zephyrian minds. They follow patterns just like we do. Kira leaned forward. What happened to the humans who went crazy? Valana's skin went pale. They discovered what Jake has discovered, that they could control our technology through emotions. But they were not careful. They tried to take control of entire ships at once. And? Carlos asked. The biosystems could not handle such chaos. The ships crashed. The humans died along with thousands of Zephyrians. The room went silent. Jake felt cold. He had been playing with forces that had killed people. That's why you've been so careful with us, Nina said. You're afraid we'll figure it out? Yes. But Jake already has figured it out, Alex pointed out. Everyone looked at Jake. He could feel their fear and hope and excitement. The room's systems hummed in response to all their emotions mixing together. The question is, Jake said slowly, what do we do now? You could help us, Valana said. Teach us to control chaos instead of being controlled by it. Share your unpredictability with us willingly. In exchange for what? Carlos asked. Your freedom. We would return you to Earth. Jake shook his head. That's not good enough. What do you want? Jake looked at each of his fellow humans. Then he looked at Valana. I want to know about the other 46 worlds you've conquered. I want to know how many other species are trapped in this empire against their will. Valana's skin went completely white. Why? Because I think this empire of yours is just another broken machine. And I've gotten very good at fixing broken machines. You want to destroy us? No, Jake said. I want to set everyone free. Starting with us. The lights in the room began to pulse in rhythm with Jake's heartbeat. Around the table, the other humans were beginning to smile. For the first time since he had been taken, Jake Morrison felt like he knew exactly what he was doing. And Empress Valana was beginning to understand that choosing him had been the biggest mistake in Zephyrian history. 3 months later, Jake stood in the ship's communications center with his team of humans. They had spent weeks learning how Zephyrian technology really worked. Now they were ready to use that knowledge. Are you sure about this? Nina asked. She was nervous, they all were. No, Jake said honestly. But we can't stay prisoners forever. Carlos checked the military equipment they had built using Alex's engineering skills. The Zephyrians won't expect this. They still think we're just breeding stock. That's their weakness, Alex said. They can't imagine that their prisoners might be smarter than they are. Jake touched the communication console. The biotechnology responded to his emotions, opening connections across the entire Zephyrian fleet. Hundreds of ships. Thousands of conquered worlds. Remember, Jake said to his team, we're not trying to destroy everything. We're trying to free everyone. For months, Jake had been working with Valana to understand Zephyrian society. She thought she was teaching him to be a good mate for her people. Really, she was teaching him how to bring down an empire. The Zephyrians ruled through perfect prediction. They studied a species until they could guess what it would do next. Then they used that knowledge to defeat them. But they had never faced anything truly unpredictable. Broadcasting in 3, 2, 1, Alex said. Jake closed his eyes and concentrated. He thought about every human emotion at once. Love, hate, fear, hope, anger, joy. He thought about freedom. The idea that every person should choose their own life. The biotechnology of the ship amplified his thoughts and sent them across space, to every Zephyrian vessel, but more importantly, it sent them to every conquered world. For the first time in centuries, billions of enslaved beings felt something their masters had never wanted them to feel, the desire to be free. On a world called Katara, lizard-like beings, working in crystal mines suddenly stopped. They looked at their Zephyrian overseers and wondered why they obeyed them. The mine's biosystems, responding to their new emotions, began to malfunction. On Rilos Prime, flying creatures who had been forced to carry messages between Zephyrian cities simply flew away. Their thoughts of freedom confused the communication. Networks that relied on their obedience. Across 47 worlds, the same thing happened. Species that had been conquered and controlled for generations suddenly remembered what it felt like to want something different. And the biotechnology that controlled them couldn't handle emotions it had never been designed to process. Jake opened his eyes. Around him, the ship's systems were going crazy. Lights flashed. Walls changed colors. The floor itself was vibrating. "It's working," Nina said, watching readings on her instruments. "Biosystem failures across the entire fleet." "How long before they stop us?" Carlos asked. "They're trying," Alex reported from his position at the technical controls. "But their override systems are biological too. They can't shut us down without shutting down their own ships." Through the ship's communication system, Jake could hear voices in dozens of languages. Beings from conquered worlds were talking to each other for the first time in years. They were sharing the new emotion he had given them, the emotion of rebellion. Empress Velana burst into the communication center with a squad of guards, but the guards looked confused. Their weapons, which were biotechnology, were responding to the chaos of emotions and wouldn't function properly. "Stop this immediately," Velana commanded. "Can't," Jake said. "It's already spread too far. You are destroying everything we have built." "Good." Velana's skin was flashing through colors Jake had never seen before. She was experiencing emotions that Zephyrians were not supposed to feel. Panic, desperation, fear. "My people will die," she said. "Your people will be free to choose their own lives," Jake corrected, "just like everyone else. We do not know how to live without the Empire." Jake turned away from the communication console. The signal was broadcasting automatically now. He had programmed it to continue until the ship's power failed. "Then you'll learn," he said to Velana. "Just like everyone else has to learn." Reports came in from across the galaxy. On Theta Station, the Zephyrian Administrative Center had lost contact with 17 worlds. On the industrial planet of Gordak, factory workers had simply walked away from their jobs. Entire fleets of Zephyrian ships were drifting in space as their crews struggled with systems that no longer obeyed commands. "The slave worlds are organizing," Carlos reported. "They're forming groups, sharing information. Some are demanding independence. Others are demanding revenge," Nina added quietly. Jake felt a moment of doubt. He had wanted to free the enslaved species, but what if they turned violent? What if his gift of freedom became a gift of war? "Jake!" Alex called out. "You need to see this." On the main screen, a message was playing. It was from a world called Veron, where bird-like beings had been forced to grow food for the Empire. Their leader was speaking. "To the humans who gave us back our hearts," the bird creature said in translated speech, "we do not seek revenge. We seek only to fly free again. We thank you for reminding us who we were before we forgot." Similar messages came from other worlds. Not all were peaceful, but most were grateful. They wanted freedom, not war. "See, Jake," said to Velana, "most beings are good when you give them the chance to be." But Velana was not listening. She was staring at reports from her home world. The Zephyrian capital was in chaos. Without the resources from conquered worlds, without the predictable patterns of empire, her people didn't know how to function. "We need those worlds," she said desperately. "Without them, Zephyrian society will collapse." "Then change your society," Jake said simply. "We do not know how. Ask for help." "Ask who?" Jake gestured at the screen showing messages from freed worlds. "Ask them. You had 47 different species working for you. They know how to do things you never learned. Maybe they'll teach you if you ask nicely instead of forcing them." Over the following days, the Zephyrian Empire fell apart. Some worlds declared independence immediately. Others formed alliances with neighboring systems. A few even offered to help the Zephyrians rebuild their society on more equal terms. Jake and his team were no longer prisoners. They were advisors, helping Velana understand how to communicate with free peoples instead of controlling slaves. "I do not understand humans," Velana said one evening. She and Jake were watching reports from across the former empire. "Most of the news was positive. You could have destroyed us completely. Why did you choose mercy? Because destroying things is easy, Jake said. Building something better is harder, but more interesting. What will happen to my people? The same thing that happens to everyone else. You'll figure out how to live free. It might be scary at first, but it's better than being trapped by your own success. Valana was quiet for a long time. I have learned much from you, Jake Morrison. Good. That was the point. And I have feelings for you that I did not expect. Jake looked at her. Over the months, he had gotten used to her alien appearance. She was actually quite beautiful in her own way. And despite everything, he had grown to care about her too. The feelings are mutual, Jake admitted. But that doesn't change what needed to happen. I know. You chose the freedom of billions over the comfort of one relationship. I chose what was right. Valana smiled. It was an expression she had learned from humans. Perhaps that is why I love you, even though you destroyed my world. I didn't destroy it, I fixed it. From his position at the communication console, Alex called out, Jake, you need to hear this, it's from Earth. The message was from the United Earth government. They had been monitoring the collapse of the Zephyrian Empire. They wanted to send diplomatic missions to the newly freed worlds. Looks like Earth wants to be part of the new galactic community, Nina said. Jake smiled. About time. He thought about his old life on Earth, the lonely apartment, the broken air filters, the synthetic meals eaten alone, that Jake Morrison had been trapped to in his own small way. Trapped by routine and loneliness and the belief that nothing important would ever happen to him. Now he was standing on an alien ship, surrounded by friends, having just liberated 47 worlds. His old life seemed like a dream someone else had lived. What happens next? Carlos asked. Jake looked out at the stars. They weren't moving in strange patterns anymore. The ship was holding position while they figured out what kind of galaxy they wanted to help build. Next, we help everyone learn how to be free, Jake said. Starting with ourselves. Outside the windows, messages from liberated worlds continued to arrive. Each one different, each one unpredictable, each one proof that freedom was spreading across the galaxy like a virus. A virus that Jake Morrison, maintenance worker from Earth, had been happy to help spread. 6 months after the fall of the Zephyrian Empire, Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the First Free Worlds Federation headquarters. The station had been built from pieces of old Zephyrian ships, donated by worlds that wanted to help create something new. Through the wide windows, Jake could see ships from dozens of different species coming and going. Bird-like beings from Varan flew alongside mechanical creatures from the robot world of Nexus 7. Former Zephyrian vessels worked next to Earth ships and vessels from worlds that had been enemies just months before. Hard to believe, isn't it? Jake turned around. Anna walked up beside him. She had asked him to call her Anna instead of Valana. She said it sounded more human, and she was trying to learn how to be less formal. What's hard to believe? Jake asked. That this all started because I wanted a mate. Jake laughed. You got a lot more than you bargained for. Anna's skin was pale blue today, with just a hint of silver. Jake had learned that her colors showed her moods. Blue meant she was content. Silver meant she was thinking about the future. Do you regret it? She asked. Which part? Being taken from Earth. Losing your quiet life. Jake thought about that. His old apartment on level 47 seemed like something from a story now. No, I don't regret it, do you? I regret the Empire. I regret keeping people as slaves. I regret not understanding sooner that freedom makes everyone stronger. But not taking me? Anna smiled. That was the best mistake I ever made. They watched a ship from Earth dock at the station. It was bringing the new human ambassador to the Federation. Jake was supposed to meet with her later to discuss trade agreements. Still strange to think of myself as a diplomat, Jake said. You are the perfect diplomat. You understand how different systems work, and you fixed the biggest broken system in the galaxy. Jake's official title was Director of Interspecies Relations. His job was to help newly freed worlds learn how to work together. It was harder than bringing down an empire, but more rewarding. Jake, Carlos Rivera, walked onto the observation deck. He wore the uniform of the Federation Security Force, which he now commanded. The council meeting is starting. They want your report on the Gordak situation. Jake nodded. How did that turn out? The factory workers and the Zephyrian managers agreed to share ownership. Production is up 30% since they started working together instead of the managers just giving orders. Good. Anna, are you coming to the meeting? Yes. As the former Empress, my input is still valuable, even if I no longer rule anything. The three of them walked through the station corridors. The halls were designed to accommodate different species, so the ceilings were high and the floors had different textures for beings with various types of feet. They passed Nina Walsh's laboratory, where she was working with scientists from 12 different worlds to develop new medicines. Through the window, Jake could see her explaining something to a group of plant-like beings from the agricultural world of Chloros. They passed Alex Turner's workshop, where he was training engineers from various species to build technology that worked for everyone, not just one type of being. The council chamber was full when they arrived. Representatives from 43 worlds sat in a circle. Some sat in chairs, others floated in the air, and a few stood in pools of liquid that they needed to breathe. Jake took his place at the center of the circle. As director, his job was to help everyone communicate even when they disagreed. First item, Jake announced, is the request from the Helix Nebula colonies for Federation membership. A spider-like being from the research world of Arachnos spoke. For us, the Helix colonies were never part of the old empire. Why should they join us? Because they've heard about what we're building here, answered a floating jellyfish creature from the water world of Aquarius. Freedom is attractive, even to those who were never enslaved. The discussion went on for an hour. Different species had different concerns, different needs, different ideas about what the Federation should be. Jake listened to all of them. Then he said, "The question isn't whether they deserve to join us. The question is whether joining us will make their lives better and our lives better too." And, asked the representative from Veron, "I think it will. The Helix colonies have resources we need. We have protection and trade opportunities they want. Most importantly, they believe in the same basic idea we do." Which is, Anna asked, though she already knew the answer, that every being should be free to choose their own path, as long as they don't hurt others. The vote was unanimous. The Helix colonies would be invited to join the Federation. After the meeting, Jake walked with Anna through the station's central garden. Plants from dozens of worlds grew together in carefully balanced harmony. The air smelled like flowers and rain and growing things. "I have news," Anna said. "Good news or bad news?" "Good, I think. 3 more former Zephyrian worlds want to apply for Federation membership." "That's wonderful. Which ones?" "My home world, and the 2 most important industrial worlds." Jake stopped walking. "Your home world? But that's the heart of the old empire." "Not anymore. My people have been watching. What happens in the Federation? They see former slaves and former masters working together. They want to be part of that." "Are you sure they're ready?" Anna's skin flickered with several colors at once. "They are scared. Change is difficult for Zephyrians, but they have learned that the old ways don't work anymore. They want to try the new ways." Jake resumed walking. They came to a bench that overlooked the main docking bay. Ships were always coming and going now. Trade ships, diplomatic vessels, exploration craft heading out to find new worlds that might want to join the Federation. "I have news too," Jake said. "What kind of news?" "Earth wants me to come home for a visit. They want to give me some kind of medal." Anna's skin went pale. "Will you go?" "I don't know. Earth feels like a different planet now. I'm not the same person who lived in that apartment." "You are still Jake Morrison." "Yes, but Jake Morrison has changed. I have responsibilities here, friends here, a life here." "You have me here." Jake looked at Anna. Over the months, their relationship had grown slowly. She was learning to be less formal, less controlling. He was learning to trust someone who had once been his captor. "Yes," he said, "I have you here." "Then stay. Is that what you want?" "What I want is for you to choose what makes you happy. If going back to Earth makes you happy, then go. If staying here makes you happy, then stay." Jake smiled. "You're getting good at this freedom thing. I had a good teacher." They sat together and watched the ships. A vessel from the mining world of Katara was docking next to a sleek Earth cruiser. Neither captain cared that their species had been enemies under the old empire. Now they were partners in building something better. "You know what's funny?" Jake said. "What?" "I spent my whole life fixing broken machines. Air filters, water pumps, heating units. Small things that didn't work right. And now? Now I've helped fix the biggest broken machine in the galaxy. An entire empire that was stuck in the wrong pattern. Do you miss the simple repairs?" Jake considered that. Sometimes. There was something peaceful about fixing an air filter. You knew exactly what was wrong and exactly how to fix it. Fixing an empire is more complicated, but more important. Anna leaned against Jake's shoulder. "And not finished yet." "No. Not finished yet." Jake looked out at the busy docking bay. Again, the Federation now included 46 worlds, with more applying every month. Each new member brought new challenges, new opportunities, new ways of thinking about problems. There would always be more to fix. More systems that didn't work right. More people who needed help finding their freedom. But for the first time in his life, Jake Morrison wasn't alone in doing the fixing. "I think I'll stay," he said quietly. "Good," Anna said, "because I still have a lot to learn about being free." "We all do." A ship from a newly discovered world approached the station. Its design was unlike anything Jake had seen before. Another species wanting to join the community of free worlds. Jake stood up. "Come on, let's go welcome our new neighbors." As they walked back into the station, Jake thought about the message he would send to Earth. He would thank them for the honor, but explain that his work was here now. He was no longer Jake Morrison, maintenance worker from level 47. He was Jake Morrison, galactic diplomat and professional fixer of broken systems, and there were still so many wonderful things left to fix. Behind them, through the garden window, stars shone on free worlds where beings were learning what it meant to choose their own destinies. Jake Morrison had never slept alone on Earth again, because he never went back to sleeping on Earth, but he never slept alone anywhere else, either. The galaxy was full of friends now, and there was always more work to do.